Hey Harmonizers, welcome to this video with Mustang 5562. We're going to do some more training sessions and I'll show you guys some of the interesting things about him. For starters, it's interesting how he is choosing to stand very underneath himself like this. So this could be meaning that he's a little bit uncomfortable. He did just have a long travel to come over to our farm, so it could be related to that, or it's probably more likely related to his feet. And so I'd love to get him tamed and gentled and handled so that way we can get his feet trimmed, because I'm sure they're probably not balanced, they're probably too long and all sorts of things. And you can also see a little bald spot on his front right, which could be related to lice or mites. And so once I get to the point where I can pet him and touch him, we'll definitely treat him for that. And that wouldn't be uncommon for me to see that in Mustangs, that they have lice or mites. It's definitely happened with horses, like especially rescue horses that I've had in the past too. And there's just like a liquid treatment that I can pour down their neck to their tail that can treat that. But I do have to get close enough that I can touch you. So it is an important thing. And so I figured I'd show you a little bit of this footage here. It's tricky with a Mustang going into winter time to get video footage and to do the training, because daylight is so limited, especially because they have the clocks fall back. Does anybody else here not like it that the clocks fall back an hour? Because then you lose an hour of daylight. I would much prefer that it still be light at 6 p.m. than have it get dark at 5 p.m. I'd rather have the light till 6 than have it be late in the morning at 6 a.m. Like, I don't need that. It can get late at 7 a.m. So, but anyways, that was it getting dark and just showing you a little bit of the work that I'm doing with the stick. And then this I thought was super cute to show you guys. While I'm mucking his pen, he's choosing to stand where he can just really monitor and watch what I'm doing. You can see his little head there in the corner as I'm moving around mucking out his whole area, and he's just watching me the whole time. So this is a different session now, and what I'm working on is essentially using the stick to reach out and touch him. There's a few reasons for this. The biggest one being safety. So it's totally fine to walk up to a horse and, use your hand, and that can go really, really well. But sometimes what happens with horses is they're exploring how they can interact with a human. They have a fear response, and how they interact with each other is often with being kind of big. Like they can want to strike out, they can paw, like they talk big to each other if they want to, with kicking, biting, all that kind of stuff. And so they have to learn that that's not acceptable with humans, because we're much more fragile than they are, and they can really injure us. And so if he were to tell me like, hey, you're too close, it could be him striking out at me or something like that. And then, so I mentioned in a previous video, I'm carrying my sister-in-law's baby. She had cancer, and so she's not able to carry a baby, and nobody else was willing to do it for her, so I was willing to try for her. So I've got her baby due, which I'm really excited for her. And so I want to make sure that I stay extra safe. And so the stick is essentially supposed to be an extension of my arm. It makes me longer, so that way I can reach out and touch and pet from a distance. And then if he were to feel like he wanted to say, no, don't do that, which is okay when he trots away like I've shown you in some of these video clips. But if he wanted to do it in more of a fighty response and strike at me or paw at me, something like that, he could end up really hurting me or hurting the baby. So it's safer to use the stick and have a little bit of that distance. Now, some of the things you're going to see in these video clips is that he definitely prefers me to be on his right side. So there were a couple moments already where he kind of went where I was on his left side, and he was like, no, that feels weird. And so he switched and turned around and went to his right side. And you can see I tossed the stick over his back. So I'm essentially using a lunge whip. And it is a bit of a tricky thing, because I'm tossing it on his back so that way it can stay on his back and I can rub him with it. But I want to try to do that in a way that doesn't signal him to start running or think that I'm whipping at him or chasing him or anything like that. So it's a bit of a tricky skill, fine art of tossing it up on, but not letting my body language look like I'm trying to send him or make him run. And you can see there I'm starting to rub him a little bit with the stick. So I'm close enough that I'm rubbing the stick back and forth. And it's got the little piece of the lunge whip that's on the opposite side of his body. And the nice thing about that is that if he starts to walk and trot, my stick can still stay there, which is a good thing. So that way he doesn't learn to run away from my touch, because I also don't want to teach him that if I'm reaching out and rubbing you with the lunge whip, which is essentially just a really long Lindsay arm, then I don't want him to learn that he should run away from me to get relief and comfort. I would like him to learn that the ideal answer that I'm looking for is for him to just stand still. And so what I do to help him understand that, because we're not at a place where I can use a cookie to reward him, because he's not going to take a cookie from my hand, and I can't pick grass every single time for doing that as well, because sometimes they can also be a little bit overwhelmed of like, okay, we did this thing and then now you're coming even closer to me, even though it's grass. So it can be a little bit of a catch-22. So what I'm doing is tossing the stick on top of his back there, and he's walking and I'm just politely following, trying to keep my body energy very calm, very nonchalant, not suggesting that we need to be running or anything like that. When he's trotting, I try to keep my body walking. And because the lunge whip has that little kind of string on the end that stays over him, I can kind of stay with him as he's moving around, which is a good thing. And sometimes it slips off, like there it slipped off, so I have to toss it back over his back. And I try to do that softly, not pointing, not clicking, not making any big motions that he thinks he's supposed to start running. And then you can see he's walking, I'm just breathing. And he might walk several laps, or there might be several laps of this walk trotting, and I'm just kind of chilling. And eventually he will come to a stop. And then that's where I usually take the stick off his back, relax my body language, and just allow him time to process. Because I really want him to understand that the answer I'm looking for is for him to just stand still and trust that I'm not going to hurt him. So that's a really big one. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.